All right, we are live. Greetings, fellow traders. Let me get this tweeted out here so everybody can join in. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Good. All right, what's going on? Hope everybody's doing great. Hope everybody had a great trading day today. So today we're going to conclude, because it's Thursday, we're going to conclude our discussion on the Wyckoff trading method, and we're going to be talking about volume spreads. So one of the cool things that, we'll get into it in a second. Before we get started, everything we're going to talk about here is for educational purposes only and not investment advice. So please take a moment to review this disclaimer. All right. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So SPX, bullish until proven otherwise. So we had a fresh all-time high today. Finished with a nice green hammer as we shifted the trend line to show that we've now accounted for the new high. Right now, the futures are down 16 points because apparently there's some conflict going on in Iraq. We took out the U.S. took out one of their senior commanders of the Iranian army who was in Iraq, and so the market is reacting to that a little bit, pulling back this morning or this evening, and we'll see how that continues into tomorrow. Now, personally, I don't think this is bearish. So, and the reason I think this is because this news flow has been coming out all day, right? We've had helicopters out there. There's been missile strikes on the Baghdad airport, and the market was continued to remain bullish all day. Now, I could see this affect oil generally over the next couple weeks. We can see oil spike this morning, pulled back a little bit off of that kind of 64 zone and came back. So that's something to keep an eye on there. But generally, I don't think this is bearish on the market. Of course, they could use this as a catalyst to bring the market down, right? I mean, it's January, right? I mean, got to have some reason, right? So they, it's been marked up all the way into January, and so now they're like, stuck at highs here, and maybe they bring it down. But honestly, it just doesn't seem bearish to me. So, but we'll see. I think the initial reaction was negative in the market, but generally, to me, just as a, from a military perspective, it was an efficient, move by the military, and I mean, it seems like, I don't know. We'll see. If anything, oil I think would be the most effective. So, and we were monitoring that today. So, we were watching oil today, and that we saw some some moves like Oxy was a good one, right? So Oxy's had a nice move up there, had a strong move today. That's one that could get some follow through on this tomorrow. Stuff like that. So we'll see how it goes into the open. Anyway, I just wanted to address that because it's out there. So that's basically the perspective right now. We'll see where we open in the morning. Okay. So right now, S&P futures, again, this is what happened today, right? We had the 15 orb this morning broke down a little bit stable at the 15 orb. Of course, they ramped up into the close. And then these are the levels that we provide to our members. So let's take a look here and see what we had today. So January. So these were the levels here. We gapped up. It looked like we might have tried to fade the gap today, but it was held by the weekly pivot level, right? So held that and then came up to the S1 and then worked its way back up. So pretty amazing stuff there. All right, cool. So hope everybody's doing great. So today we're going to continue our discussion on the Wyckoff trading method. And today we're going to talk about volume spreads and a couple little strategy items. So this should be pretty interesting. It's been a pretty cool discussion on this one. Let's go to the shop chart. This is where we've been taking our notes. Okay, let's go to the daily here. All right. So initially with the we came up with some rules. We came some general guidelines. Right? Well, what is he called it? The first we talk about the before this, there are two rules, right, that we talked about, right? The first is that the market never behaves in the same way, never quite exactly the same way. There's always something different. I believe that, right? Because one, just it's always a new time or a date or something like that, and two, volume changes, right? Supply and demand changes, things like that. So nothing is ever exactly the same. So that is a definite, understand the rule. And the second one is that, right, that there's changes based on that. So by using prior price behavior, we can look and find, some similarities, right? Then we talked about the phases, right? We talked about the accumulation phase. That's where institutions, load up here, and I thought SHOP was a great example. Institutions load up, right? And then they do the markup phase, right? Which is the and we talked about all the three different laws: supply and demand, effort at result, cause and effect, cause, effect, cause, effect, right? Market phase, distribution phase, markdown phase, accumulation phase, and then the cycle repeats itself. So pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool stuff. So today we're going to talk about a little more practical application of it, and one is the volume spread analysis. So it's one way to look at kind of what happens before a big move occurs. And so I thought shop was actually a pretty good example with this too. And one of the things that we saw before the move up is what we see is that volume is important, right? Because it provides valuable information for what's going on. So what happens is, so the Wyckoff volume analysis provides confirmation of progressing events during the Wyckoff cycle, and so high volumes can lead to sustained price options on the chart, which was the result. But however, it's not all. So a lot of times we see a pullback in volume before a big move. And so when the price moves through a key level during the Wyckoff price cycle, we would consider the move valid if trading volumes are relatively high. Okay, so this is actually a great example here. So what we could see here is that the volume, this could be accumulation data, right? But we saw here that the volume was decreasing, right? So if you can see these blue lines right here on the chart, we saw the volume was decreasing, right? And then once we get over a key level and we can start to see volume increasing, right, that usually is an indication that there's moves happening, right? Now, this happened to correspond with earnings, and oftentimes it does. But we can see here these key levels, right? These earnings pushed us over these levels, and we saw a breakout over these levels here with increased volume, right? And then we started to stay above these levels. And again, look at this right here, right? This pullback, which started this channel up, more volume came in, right? And we started to see rising to the upside, right? So this is very interesting stuff, and it actually happened here as well, right, on this breakout here of these levels, right, this accumulation phase, right, we saw an increase in volume, we saw a decrease, right, as we were kind of like heading down and drifting sideways, and then an increase in volume as we started to push through these levels, right, and that shows that price generally wanted higher, and that's exactly what happened there. So it's a really cool tool to use volume with that, and it can really, really help. So one of the examples is just to basically the strategy of the whole thing that I just kind of wanted to touch on since we don't have another day of this is essentially to use these chart patterns and start to try to identify them and use volume to the advantage to see when things start to happen. So a lot of times if we can see here like a breakdown and we start to see like a decrease in volume, right, and then start to see volume start to ramp up as we see a breakout phase, that's one really key thing to look for. And I think it can be applied pretty well in trading in general. So these are the things that we look at too in our group. We always look for volume to see if a breakout makes sense, because a lot of times if we see a breakout through a key level on decreased volume, we don't see the follow through that we like to see. So volume is really critical on this. It gives us a clue into what the institutions are doing. So good stuff there. Hopefully you guys found this really helpful. I think it's a great tool. It's at least a great methodology to kind of know as you go through trading, just to recognize that, hey, these things move in cycles, right? We have the accumulation phase, we have the markup phase, we have the distribution phase, and then the markdown phase. So I think it's really good, and then using volume to our advantage. So good stuff. So hopefully you guys found this helpful. At this point, if anybody has any questions or chart requests, please feel free to plug those into the chat window, and we'll get through as many as we can. We'll try to wrap up as early as possible so we can get a good night's sleep, let these futures do what they're going to do, and see where we are in the morning. So that should be pretty interesting as well. So good stuff. All right, so awesome. So we had a few chart requests that came through. We have Shirley sent a few in by email, so let's pull those up here real quick. Let's go to the daily chart. So she sent in a few, but I think these are some of the more interesting, well, not necessarily more interesting ones, but these are the more ones that folks like to, a little more popular ones, right? So we'll see. But Apple, all-time highs today. Hit 300 today, hit the 300 mark. And is this continuing to be bullish, right? So the trend line remains up. It actually pushed above that macro pitchfork level, which got a little bit of a pullback, and continued to be strong today into the close. AMD was another one that was interesting. So AMD closed above all the prior pivot levels, and this line right here corresponds with the prior all-time highs, which occurred like 20 years ago or something like that. So AMD finally made an all-time high, finally got to a real strong level, and it had increased volume as it broke out over these levels. So it may still be in the markup phase as it continues to work its way up. So this is definitely one that's bullish until proven otherwise, and we'll continue to keep an eye on that one. So it had some great opportunities today. In fact, this had a great day trade opportunity too at the open off of the 15 orb. It was gapping up, right? Nice continuation move, and then came up to those all-time high levels and then continued to go even after hour. So amazing stuff there on AMD today. SPY, of course, very similar to SPX, right? So continue to work its way up here. We have a fresh high, so we have a fresh trend line. So we shift that over here to those prior lows, and we'll continue to observe it and see if we remain bullish here, unless they try to prove otherwise with this war stuff that's going on. Microsoft, generally been pretty challenging, but nice move today. I love how it closed over all levels here. Also closed at all-time highs. Very, very strong close. We'll see if that gets any continuation on that one too. And JD. JD, pretty impressive stuff right here. It has been very challenging to work its way up to these levels, but again, closed over many key levels here and is looking very strong today. So a lot of the Chinese names were pretty strong today as well. Awesome stuff. Delta Trader, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in. Good evening. You guys? Yeah. Let's take a look at you guys here. So you guys, again, generally been you're kind of downtrending here a little bit, right? So, but we'll see. At any time, it could break its way over this downward trend line and start to work its way up. Let's see if that's a bottom there. Let's see if it gets over that trend line and goes up. It may follow in oil's coattails tonight. Experience and thoughts. Good evening. Amazon, Goog, and Facebook. Yeah, I mean, everything was pretty bullish today, generally. Some retail names were not, like Target, things like that. But Amazon did pretty good, right? 3-day pullback after its big move up. You know, it tested 50% of the range. And then today, not only did it give a gap up, but it got some continuation here. So it still has a little bit of resistance above. Let's see if it can get above that and get constructive. Goog. The Goog. Goog had a big move today as well. Closed over all these key levels, increased volume. You know, looks strong. Let's see if they can hold it, or if they decide to flush the market down and get everybody out of their positions tomorrow. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. Awesome. And Facebook, also a nice close today. I like the increased volume. I love how it closed over these levels. Again, we'll see how the war affects it. so we have that going into tomorrow. And NetEase, yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look at NetEase. So NetEase was interesting. It had a big move today, pushed over these key pivot levels, right, and then closed with a big upper shadow. So not as strong a close as I'd like to see, but big volume came in it, and you know, definitely looks like it could be constructive from here. Okay, Heather, what's going on? Good evening, Diz. Yeah, so definitely like Diz. Could be a good safety name, you know, despite the war efforts to keep the market down here. I love where it closed. I love how it closed above this level. I love it how it closed above these levels. I love the increased volume. I love the last Mandalorian. So it could be starting to build some strength right here. Let's see if it can work to fill this closing gap right here over the next couple, you know, say the next week or so. Starting to look very strong there. Okay. And Delta Trader USO, yeah. That's definitely going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on as well. Inside day today, let's see if it gets a pop. It may be gapping up tomorrow. So see if it, you know, closes and stays above those levels. Could give a gap and go as well if it gets and stays above those. Manesh, good evening. Shop and Roku, yeah, two of the fun ones. Let's take a look. So Shop has still been struggling a little bit. Just got back over its upward trend line today, but it's still within the trend box, right? So it needs to get to all-time highs for us to shift this up. So we'll see if that gets any continuation today. And Roku. It's trying, right? So, you know, along with the rest of the market, it did have a decent move, came up with a hammer today, you know, filled any of its gaps and then reversed back up. Let's see, it's got an open gap above here. You can see I have all these levels on here. I know it's a little messy. If we pull up this one here. So it's got a little closing gap right here and an open gap. So let's see if it can work its way there, and then it needs to try to get out of the cloud. Hasn't been getting as much attention as Apple and Amazon recently, but certainly been still been had some tradable opportunities. Okay, Nate, what's going on? I know Apple's still bullish, still proven otherwise, and it wasn't easy today. I mean, they don't, you know, this candle is, you know, it looks like an easy candle day, but if you're day trading, it was a little bit tricky, right? It had a lot of chop today, but it did give a nice little move here. You know, a little bit of a wedge type breakout, right? Pennant type breakout here, and then it gave that move into the close. And let's see, awesome stuff. Ernesto, what's going on? NVIDIA and Boeing. Yep, so NVIDIA, let's take a look here, see how it's looking on the daily chart. Okay, so NVIDIA's looking pretty good here. Nice gap up, came with a hammer, right? Couple key levels right here, which it couldn't get above. Again, getting over this 241.81 is going to be key for it. Otherwise, it has the open gap below. And Boeing. Okay, so Boeing is actually pretty interesting here, guys. So I really like this chart today. Why? Because it put in a morning star reversal. Okay, so this here was bar 1. This is bar 2, where the real body was below the real body of the prior one. And then we had a gap up and closed well over 50% of the range of bar 1. So we have a morning star reversal here. So this really could be trying to work its way up and at least test some of these other levels. So looking pretty good. Ryle fam, what's going on? Fizz? Let's take a look. Fidelity National. Doji. So could it be working on a Doji sandwich, right? We had a pretty strong day on Tuesday, Doji today might get some follow through. Keep an eye on that. See how it handles those opening levels today. We do have some key areas that it did close above, but it put in an upper shadow for you. So see if it gets a little more momentum to the upside. I do like the increased volume on it, but just watch out for a reversal if it breaks below today's lows. MHawk 420, what's going on? You my boy, Blue. How about FSLR? Inside up. Inside day up. Looking pretty good. Nice strong close today for solar. Yeah, it looks good. You know, generally, I mean, a little bit tight right here, but I like the inside day up, and I like how it's working its way up the cloud. And then RTN. Oh yeah. So a lot of the these were some of the nice ones today. So RTN, LMT. Some of these other the war names, right? The defense sector stocks had some strength today as the news flow continued to come out over the over the kind of the attacks and everything that's been going on in Iraq. So we'll see how this if this gets any continuation or a very strong candle, nice volume. Let's see if it gets some more momentum into tomorrow. So nice stuff. John, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in. Papa Mentos, what's up? Let's take a look. So LE. Okay, so we did find that as some good resistance levels up here. Pulled back a little bit, right? So, and it's coming back to test some of these key resistance levels here that might become support. So there's a closing gap right here. So this closing level here is 1505. That's going to be an important level for it to test. It did kind of reverse off of that zone, which oftentimes can be bullish, but it still may want to go and test it, right? And then, of course, we have a couple other levels here, some other closing levels here as well that we could kind of stretch out a little bit. This closing gap here, things like that. So then you got some support here. So we'll see. I do like the bottom shadow on it, but it looks like it might want to chop around for a little bit. See if it gets constructive there and gives us setup to work to the upside. Great job, man. That's awesome. Good. Yo, you're just having fun with this one. That's great. Matthew, good evening. Thanks for tuning in, man. Samit, Citigroup. Yep, strong. Wow, financial strong today. So that's good. Yeah, nice move on that one. Moved like defensive sector stock. So yeah, strong on the financials today. Definitely moving along with the rest of the market. V, I think, finally had a close above a key level right here. So that had a nice day today. That's looking pretty good. And then PayPal. So PayPal was pretty interesting, right? PayPal had a nice close above these levels. Nice move today. Big gap up and some continuation, right? One thing I did want to point here is on the weekly chart. Look at that. Tagged the weekly cloud and then bounced off of that down here. Something to look at. And then it closed above the 200-day moving average and it got constructive after that. So just something to kind of keep an eye on there. Manesh, WM. All right, so so nice lower shadow today. I love how it closed above these levels. I like the increased volume on it. I like how it's attacking, this downward candle right here. 50% of the range is about here, so it may try to work its way up there. So looking pretty good there. And John D. Market has been insane. It really has been. It's been insane for the last 2 years, but it is what it is, and it's been an insane movement up just the last 1 year, right? So it's been pretty nuts. But it is. Is what it is. So just gotta continue to trade it if that's what we want to do, right? So it's look for the setups intraday, look for the best swings you can find, try to get as much cash out of it as possible, right? And don't be over leveraged. ROKU and WW. Yeah, so ROKU we took a little glance at earlier, but we'll take another look at it here. So ROKU, got pretty strong today, right? Held this triangle, this geometric level right here, as it got back into it on Tuesday. Got a little work up right here. So if it continues, right, there's a nice gap above that it could start to get to. And then WW. Yeah, so it got really bullish the other day and then big down move today with a little bit of a lower shadow here. So it's got a lot of levels here to contend with. So although bearish, I still wouldn't mess with it here. And then RAD. Yeah, so RAD's pretty amazing too. Nasty upper shadow off of these levels right here. Gap down again. Gapped up today and then a huge reversal. Looks pretty bearish, honestly. It looks like it may come back down and test a couple of these levels down here. And then MIK. Yeah, Michael's pretty interesting. Had some big news the other day. I like the inside day. It still stayed constructive with this candle here, and it closed over this upper shadow, which is looking pretty good. Looks like it may want to come up and test the cloud, which may eventually correspond with that 200-day moving average. So you may find a little resistance in that area. Good stuff. Great charts tonight, guys. So we'll see how this the futures look in the morning. Again, I think the defense sector names, oil names, things like that will be pretty active tomorrow. So keep an eye on that. GLD may be one too. Now, interestingly about the GLDs, right, is they have been loading into these, even when the market's been going up, which is pretty rare, right? So normally it's it's a kind of a hedge, or it's kind of a defense if the market's going down. So they've been kind of gearing up for a potential move into January. This is kind of like one of the signs that something might have been happening. And who knows, this war thing might be their catalyst for trying to push the market down. It could be anything. I mean, 1987 was like supposedly the big news was American Airlines, or one of the airlines at the time was failing, and that was the reason for it. It made no sense at the time, but it was setting up, right? So we'll see. This market has been so funky that they could push it down in 3 days and it could be up, the next day, right? It's just been a lot different in terms of context. This is nothing like the 1929 crash. It's nothing like the 1987 crash or anything like that. It's not setting up like that at all. I mean, there were plenty of opportunities for it to get below a trend line, and it was a 2-month process for it to even start, for a big down move. So right now we're just bullish, and we'll see. My guess is they probably clean these futures up in the morning, put some bullish news out there, and the market shakes it off. Like I said, I mean, this news flow is coming out all day. I think the big ones are going to be like your LMT, your NOC, your RTN, right, your defense sector stocks, and then your oil stocks. So like on the bullish side, and then your GLD type stuff might get some activity tomorrow. So just something to just keep in mind. But other than that, that's all I have for tonight. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Oh, we got a couple of requests there. Sumit, Walmart. Yeah, so these were the ones that were actually showing some bearishness today. Right, big upper shot on Walmart today, so could get some continuation to the downside. Target, another one. I liked it as a potential bearish, but the lower shadow here held some support, so that was kind of like, not really. And then cost, it's just so hard to short cost. If anything, it just came back and tested this downward trend line, but we'll keep an eye on it. But it's also at some support too. So, oh yeah, Manesh, and DE. Let's take a look there. Yeah, DE, nice move. Nice move over these levels, increased volumes. I mean, this is a strong candle right here, for sure. Nice cloud breakout, I love it, right? So, but again, just keep an eye on it, see if, what kind of news comes out and all that stuff. So, next level is here off of this that breakdown. But anyway, good stuff, guys. Well, really appreciate everybody for tuning in tonight. Thank you again for your support. Be sure to hit like on the YouTube video, and definitely if you're new here, definitely subscribe on YouTube. We go over new technical ideas every market night, and of course we take chart requests. So if you ever want to jump in, whenever if you subscribe, you'll see when we're online. You could always join in, and also check out the links in the YouTube description. So thank you everybody for tuning in, and I hope everybody has a wonderful evening. And we'll see you guys Sunday night. And, of course, we'll send a lot of good stuff out on Twitter. And remember your risk first and stay safe so you can stay in the game. I'll talk to you soon.